Morning, Tim.
Morning, Fred.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Okay, just
I, I was I was surprised by the strength of that rally yesterday.
yeah. Before we get into that, just once again, we are not investment advisors. This is just purely two brothers talking. Don't take this as investment advice. And another quick intro. I've spent 40 plus years of my career, the last 15 years or so, as a salesperson, putting together trading platforms. Tim?
I was a trader and a treasury manager for a regional bank. I've spent about 50 years in the markets, going back to the late 60s. And I consider myself a student of the markets. Fred and I chat every morning, and a few people heard this chat and said we should send it out on podcast. So we're doing that. And welcome to the Markets and Madness morning podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a little surprised at the rally, you're saying, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got news about the Fed, and we didn't do much with it. We spiked up. Dow was up 300 points. Then it was down. I think we closed a little mixed.
Yeah.
But Asia really took it to heart and bought the rally. So the fact that the rally came from Asia, I think, makes it dollar based. And do you remember when everybody used to trade with a light that would say risk on, risk off?
Yeah.
I think the risk on light went
Yeah.
went went off, and everybody put on risk assets, and the Dow rallied in a big way.
But do you think it's just inflationary psychology, fearing back in that the Fed went too far, too fast?
I don't know if I could put that much emphasis on it. There's some people that feel that way. I feel that way,
Yeah.
but I think the conclusion was we got cheap money again, and the Fed wants to see cheap money. And if you saw the payroll numbers, if you can believe them,
Right.
didn't justify 50 basis points.
Right.
So, why is the Fed easing? I think I came to the conclusion, anyway, for what it's worth, that the Fed is caving in. And they're not really concerned about the inflation mandate. They don't see inflation as a problem now. And they want to keep these money cheap. I mean, the market's not going to be happy until we get back to ZIRP, zero interest rate policy.
Right.
That's what they want to see.
Right.
But I got a feeling that I mean, I'm not the Fed. I don't know, but I'm not sure I can justify that move.
There are some people that are calling this Goldilocks now. Easy money, the numbers aren't bad, super soft landing, everything's rosy. I'm not buying it. People want to buy stocks forever. And I know you buy the dips in these markets and you don't have any pain. You don't have any
Well,
pain
I'll
when you
tell you
buy
what
the dip.
you can't escape. You can't escape that you're seeing fiscal stimulus like we've never seen before. I mean, the government's spending five, six, $7 trillion, and we're seeing monetary stimulus, significant monetary stimulus. I mean, rates are historically low, and the Fed's pushing them lower. So that level of stimulus, you could say it's justified. I'm not sure it is, but that'll keep this thing going. I mean, I've said it a couple of times now. Charles Payne said we spend $7.5 million for $5 million worth of growth.
Right.
Well, the stock market focuses on the $5 million worth of growth.
Right.
They don't care about the $7 trillion worth of debt. They think we can borrow forever, and maybe we can,
And we've been doing it for the last 40 years, so yeah, why not?
but never at this level, and never when debt financing, the interest to pay the debt rivals the defense budget. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest line items on the budget. And that could be another reason for the Fed dropping these rates. Financing costs.
Right. They have the ability to control that. At least they control a portion of the expenditures.
Well, at least the market looked at it. Asia started it. But the market looked at it and said, dollar's a sale. We're not going to buy this dollar.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know that we're going to see a dollar rout, but it may be time that the dollar's topped out. And
So what do you buy pounds? Do you buy yen? I mean, what we've said a couple of times in the last few weeks, the dollar is the best horse in the glue factory, right? So now that you're talking about a dollar a sale, I know you like gold. You buy
yeah,
gold against the dollar,
yeah,
and maybe oil. If we do have any type of growth scenario, oil looks good, and there's certainly some more problems in the Mideast that could cut off the supply at any time, and could give you more supply constraints. But in terms of currency to currency, is it the pound? Is it the yen? I don't know. Maybe the yen, but I'm not sold on Europe. I'm not sold on the pound. Maybe Australia. Maybe the Aussie dollar. Maybe CAD.
many years ago, before the dollar became the recipient of hot flows, a guy we both know, a guy you worked for, and a good friend of mine, said to me, when somebody picks up a gun and points it at somebody else, buy Swiss francs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that used to be the safe haven.
yeah.
And maybe, it depends on what the Swiss National Bank does. If they cave and drop big, then that goes off the table too.
I haven't heard talk about the Swiss safe haven since the National Bank broke the peg. Geez, that's a long time ago now.
Yeah,
That's
right.
got to be 14, 15 years ago. So they really pushed a lot of speculators out, and there's that the fear of the National Bank. Hurt a lot of people.
Well, let me pose this question to you. We might want to label this call Back to the Future, because if that's the case, it's a Back to the Future move, just like the risk on, risk off light is a Back to the Future move, too. Um, uh, it's a foreign exchange play for sure. And they certainly bought the pound the other day because they left their rates unchanged. So the pound's on that target list for recipients, and the
Yeah.
Swiss franc maybe.
Well,
Japanese yen goes its own way. That's
when I first broke into the markets in 1979, the early 80s, it wasn't just all interest rates that affected, the exchange rate. It was economic factors. It's where's the economy going? How can they converge? But over the last 20 years, it's pure. To be an FX trader, you really have to know where rates are and where they're going, and that's it. Forget about politics. Forget about GDP numbers. Forget about the economic forecast. People just care about what am I getting day to day and what am I lending day to day. That's it.
that's a fair point. But I would suggest to you that you had the luxury of trading under a Fed that had credibility.
Yeah,
At Volcker and Greenspan,
that's right.
you know, and they've done a lot in this last decade or so to eliminate that credibility. Bernanke and his helicopter money, Powell now, Yellen. We've
Yeah.
seen Feds that have enjoyed credibility just simply because they inherited it. And if in fact this market believes what I suggested, that the Fed is caved and the Fed is political, then higher interest rates doesn't necessarily mean, or at least higher inflation doesn't necessarily mean a higher dollar. Because when you see higher inflation, the knee jerk reaction is, well, the Fed's going to respond to that and rates are going to go up, and they buy the dollar on that. But if the feeling is the Fed's not going to respond to it, then the higher interest rates won't show up and the dollar won't go up. You know, it's you get an opposing reaction under a Fed that has no credibility. And this Fed started to lose credibility in the transitory years, um, and he fought to get it back and raise rates, and I think he got his credibility back. But that could be suspect now.
Yeah. We're talking the other day briefly offline about what did you term it? The different portfolios for different scenarios. And if we're going into
Yeah.
an inflation cycle like we haven't seen before, obviously gold, obviously
Well, commodities too.
yeah, commodities across the board, right?
Yeah.
And what else?
Well, see, grain's a funny animal because you got the Ukraine, and if that were to settle, the grains would be impacted in a big way.
Right.
Um, so each one has its own. We're in a place now where there are so many. It's almost like each market is its own plastic explosive and could go off at any time. I
Yeah.
think gold is the safer bet,
Yeah. Gold
even
and
at these
silver.
levels,
Yeah.
and silver maybe.
Copper.
Silver seems to be responding more than gold.
Yeah. The last couple of days, both up and down. You know, it's
It's
a
got a
lot
big
more
way to go.
volatile. I mean, if you wanted to put an options play on, you buy volatility in silver and go short volatility in gold and run that gamma trade on both sides.
I don't like that back leg, that second leg, volatility
Well,
in
I'm
gold.
just I'm just saying if you're weighted properly, because I think silver has been a lot more volatile than gold, both up and down. When silver
Mhm.
goes up, it goes up 4%. When gold goes up, 1.5%. When it goes down,
Yeah,
it goes down 3-4%.
it's
That's
a higher Vega play for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to keep this to what 10 or 15, 10 minutes or
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we're at 11 minutes. Anything special come out of your conversation with your friends yesterday? Anything interesting?
What was interesting is um, they sort of bordered on conspiracy theorists in a way. One guy said, "Look, I don't wear a tin hat. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't." But he launched a very cogent argument. He said, "We've never seen, with maybe two exceptions in history, a president remain in Washington after his term, but Obama did." He said, and I looked at that and I thought, I wonder if he's going to have influence in this administration. And they all, I mean, everybody, they actually asked, who do you think is running the government? Most people felt it was Obama. I mean, clearly it's not Biden. Right now it's not Biden.
Right,
And you can
right.
make a strong argument. And I raised 2 points as the topic came up. I said, I saw a video maybe year and a half, 2 years ago of a cocktail party. And Biden was wandering aimless and nobody was near him. And everybody was talking. Obama was holding court and everybody was hustling up to Obama. And I thought, oh, who the hell is the president? It looked a little strange. And then the other thing
That's when Obama
is,
brushed them off. When Biden tried to grab and he brushed them off,
you
right?
remember the video, yeah. And the other thing is, if you look at the border, and suppose you were running things, whether you were president or influential, and you wanted to get 10 to 15 million illegals in the country immediately, you wouldn't go through the process of making them legal and waiting 4 or 5 years and putting them online with everybody else. You might, because you believe in a process, you might raise the quota or something like that, put more people on the processing end. But if you didn't respect the process the way a community organizer would, a guy like Al Sharpton, what he would do is exactly what happened: flood the zone and overrun the border. And that's what we've seen. We've overrun the border, and you know, I guess if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, you have to accept it really could might be a duck.
That's right.
And that's the way a community organizer would do it. That's how Obama grew up. I think the more interesting part of all of it is they were very reluctant to move Obama into the slot to run, and they were certainly reluctant to do that. But then the committee met, and that would be
When you say move
Pelosi.
Obama into the slot to run,
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean Obama. I meant Kamala.
yeah,
And then the committee met and said, "Well, you know what? Really, it doesn't matter who we appoint. We can put her in, give her a new identity, and that's kind of what happened." I mean, all of us are very surprised. If I would have asked you 6 weeks ago, suppose they say, "All right, Kamala, you didn't win any votes in the primaries, and
right.
14 million people voted, and zero for you." The guy in what, some New Guinea or wherever, Guyana, somebody had more,
right,
4 votes in the primaries that beat her. Yet we're going to appoint you. And the committee has basically said, it doesn't matter who we appoint. Maybe it means whoever we appoint is not running the country anyway.
right.
Yeah, it feels that way.
You
I hate
used
to
the term
say it.
Politburo the other day,
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it has that feel to it.
You know,
And
I've said this a number of times. For the first 60 years of my life, I believed everything that came out of the government and bought it hook, line, and sinker. And since COVID, I scratched my head to say, I don't know if I really buy that anymore.
yeah, COVID was really the turning point.
Yeah,
And we don't believe anything. We don't believe the numbers and the labor statistic. We don't believe a lot of people don't believe in the
you don't believe the news. You don't believe,
vaccinations.
yeah,
We don't believe the news. We don't believe what we've seen.
yeah. And with Musk buying Twitter and opening up these personal journalists that are going around there. Did you see the story about the guy from New York? He was in charge of COVID planning, and there's videos of him, and I guess they're undercover videos. I don't know if they're true or not, but basically saying he had sex parties, he was on Molly, and it was great to get out. And this was good. Yeah, I was running all of that. I was the one who shut down the government. I'm the one who advised them.
Didn't see that story.
It's like, what? Now,
I
do
know
you
we're going to cut
I
it
don't
short,
know.
but I wanted to raise one more point.
Yeah,
What the Israelis did with that Trojan horse explosion, it makes you wonder. We got all this Chinese stuff floating around. I'm probably talking on a mic that's Chinese, and
yeah,
you know, I wonder if they deployed the.
something similar.
Is that crazy?
Yeah,
I don't know. All right, we're crazy enough.
that's right. We're going down the rabbit holes.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good Friday. Good
Okay,
football
you too.
weekend. Nice Jets win last night. So there we
Take care.
go. All right.